Bear Academy.
When Ryoko looks up, the morning sun is already streaming in through the window. Tired from hours of poring over files, she removes the glasses and massages her aching eyes. Her dreams are always filled with horror. Yet the night she just spent was more nightmarish than them all, and it's not over yet. She has only just set foot in the threshold. As expected, the files left by Ogai Masahiko were not the sort that Ryoko could simply pick up and read. Fortunately, Ogai had been too old-fashioned to put his trust in electronic media. If he'd encrypted his files on a computer, she'd have had to find a hacker to decipher them. In fact, he had not employed any kind of code in his writing. That would have been too time-consuming by hand. The method of obfuscation? Is that a word? I don't know. He did use was quite simple. Of the files Ryoko pulled from his underground lab, the majority turned out to be notes of these from Ogai's days as a student. The important papers were the diaries and research notes that had been scattered throughout the piles of worthless scrap. At first she was unable to understand the documents that she had found. Each sheet was covered with text on one side and blank on the other. Each line was completely unrelated to the next, making it impossible to glean any meaning from the whole. The trick revealed itself, however. While she was sawing the pages that made no sense, she found that each line continued on the same line of a different page. In Ogai's diary, for example, the first day began on the first line, then continued not with the next line, but with the first line on the next page. Okay, that's rather simple. Similarly, the second day was the second line, the third day was the third line, and so on and so forth. After filling all the lines on one set of pages, Ogai had torn them out and scattered them among the other files. There was no regularity to how the pages were numbered, of course. Unable to locate any sort of key or legend, Ryoko had no choice but to figure out the pages order manually. Despite knowing that the task would be exhausting, Ryoko said it valiantly. After separating all the loose-leaf sheets from the jumbled files, she began the painstakingly process of linking pages together according to the contents of the first line. She found that Ogai had dismantled and scattered his diary each... Ooh, sorry about that. She found that Ogai had dismantled and scattered his diary each time he completed a number of days equal to the lines on one page, and had done the same with his research notes every 30 pages or so. The diary was much easier to restore. Because the entries varied in length, later pages had a larger number of blank lines. The page with only one line, therefore, was the last page of the diary, and those with the most blank spaces could be considered closer to the end. Yeah, makes sense. Ryoko's perseverance has paid off, for she has already succeeded in restoring several volumes of Ogai's diary. As she reads them, she feels despair draining her spirit, as it has so many times before. This cursed feeling of powerlessness that comes with knowing hidden truths. Those who have tasted it once shall be beaten down by it again and again until the day they die. All secrets are connected after all. Once you have glimpsed even the tiniest fraction of the world's true face, you have no choice but to watch in horror as the veil rolls itself back inch by inch. All that remains is to wait for the day when insanity will crush your reason under its ever-mounting weight. I have succeeded in communicating with the organisms. It shows enormous curiosity, and its intelligence is beyond doubt. See research notes for confirmed vocal patterns and body language. Its appetite for knowledge is insatiable, and its learning speed is off the charts. However, it exhibits absolutely no desire to be recognized as an individual. Its ego appears to be quite weak, suggesting a psyche wholly unlike that of human. The speed of the organism's linguistic development is astounding. When I laughed at its mispronunciation, it immediately picked up the concept of puns. Ever since, it has been employing its entire vocabulary in an attempt to find puns that will make me laugh. Perhaps in a few days' time, it will have learned enough language for us to communicate freely. The organism's command of spoken language is now sufficient to facilitate higher-level discourse. But although it has regaled me with questions all day, it remains unable to answer any of mine. Its reply suggests that it gained awareness only after materializing in the universe. It has no knowledge of where it came from. So it's an alien? Hold on, no. But materializing in this universe? Was it kind of like a fourth dimensional being? Like a great old one? Some Elder Shore? Well, I'm disappointed. The fact that it has reached this level of intelligence only 1 week after starting to think tells me that there is no end to what it can learn from. Hypothesis. It is not a naturally occurring organism, but was created by an even more sophisticated sentient life form. This could explain why it has no ego yet possesses such a hunger for knowledge. It might be some sort of reconnaissance drone that was sent here from another world. parallel universe? Ryoko smiles humorously for the umpteenth time since she started reading. How wonderful it would be if she could laugh the diary off as the delusions of a madman or the work of a science fiction author. Alas, she knows far too much. When she thinks back to the many horrors that OGAI brought into her life, the words before her take on a chilling credibility. I have confirmed that the organism's brain power far surpasses any humans. This morning, I taught it about prime numbers. After I explained the Lucas-Lehmer test for Mersenne primes, it immediately began to list examples that it had calculated and said. I was only able to confirm by memory up to number 10. Number 10, M89, but I continued to list further examples without any trouble. I left it to its calculations, and when I returned a few hours later, I discovered that it had written down more than 70 of them. Computers all over the world are currently working to calculate Mersenne primes, but the last one I remember being found was the 39th back in 2001. Yeah, I got no freaking clue what Mersenne primes are, I just know the regular prime numbers. You know, that are only divisible by 1 and themselves. When I entered several of the results into my laptop and ran the Lucas-Lehmer test on them, I found that everyone was correct. The same is no doubt true of the rest. After all, the organism has never shown the pathological need for respect that would lead it to lie about its accomplishments. I see no reason to doubt its veracity. If I could reveal the world an expedient method for discovering Mersenne primes, prize money would make me a billionaire. Of course, my current research is worth far more than any sum of money. I must keep it a secret. The organism's computational speed exceeds that of even the most powerful supercomputers. I can only conclude that its cognitive faculties are beyond anything humanity can imagine. Ooh, the bowl is getting a little dry. I need to take another sip. Oh, my glass is empty. At the organism's request, we have begun a new field of study. Despite its immeasurable aptitude for mathematics, it now desires to concentrate on sociology and the natural sciences. Perhaps our math problems are simply too elementary for it. It has shown especially keen interest in the means of which organisms reproduce and multiply. As it possesses nothing that could be called emotion, I hesitate to use this description, but when it learned about DNA, it seemed somehow excited. Man, this is a lot of scientific mumbo-jumbo. In fact, the organism itself seemed surprised by its reaction. When asked about the nature of its impulse, the organism decided to label it instinct. If this description is indeed accurate, then this is an extremely significant development. It would mean that there is a deeper level to its psyche than just the knowledge it has acquired since coming to this world. If I can use this discovery to trace its roots, I might be able to learn what it truly is. Note: candidates for the plane and world of the organism's origin are discussed in my writings on the Silver Key, filed separately. I spent the whole day carrying books into its room. Apparently the organism is no longer satisfied by the knowledge I am able to impart. It should come as no surprise considering its linguistic prowess, but the speed at which it consumes text is astounding. Diary continues for some time, chronicling the intimate relationship between OGAI and the organism. Intimate? Don't tell me Saya fucked OGAI as well. In the back of her mind, Ryoko imagines the old doctor climbing down the well in the middle of the night to hold congress with some inhuman creature in that bizarre laboratory. The image is disturbingly similar to the nightmares that have shattered the silence of May nights with her screams. What follows, however, makes even her worst nightmares pale in comparison. The organism has made a very strange request. This is the first time it has asked for anything, other than food and reading materials. I can hardly believe it, but it wants to consume the sperm of living creatures. It wants to consume the sperm of living creatures. Alright. This is separate from its desire for food. Once again, it is describing this impulse as instinctive. Okay. Now that it had declared itself a life form that requires the seed of males, it has begun to identify itself as female. After today, I suppose, I shall have to start calling the organism a she. God damn, like, imagine this game came out nowadays, like, Twitter would be ripping it to shreds. Is the personality that she has begun to exhibit really just an imagination created for her amusement? Imitation. Ever since she started to immerse herself in our literature, she has been acting astonishingly human. She identifies herself as female and already possesses an enormous store of cultural knowledge. Is she trying to create a human identity for herself based on these? I've seen her laugh, grow angry, and today she cried. Is she just copying our emotional displays? If not, then she is already... Is the soul something that any intelligent life form can acquire? I feel that I am witnessing something more mysterious than the genesis of life itself. Today's her birthday. Although it's a year late, I want to give her a special gift. Saya was the name of my mother's cat. In childhood, she was my sole friend and my beloved. I decided long ago that if I were ever blessed with children, I would give this name to my daughter. Ah, okay. Name origin story? Happy birthday, Saya. Let this be the name of your soul. You have earned it. The ability that Saya has discovered in herself is showing more extraordinary results each day. I have no doubt that she is a kind of artist. What exactly is it that she created in her body from the rat semen? What exactly is it that she created in her body from the rat semen I gave her? Where did you obtain said rat semen? You know, just curious. Did you milk the rat yourself, or? At this point, I can only surmise that it is a type of retrovirus, a reverse fucking stuff, all the science mumbo jumbo. A reverse transcriptase enzyme that creates exactly what she desires. Okay. The rats that have been transformed by her art are so very beautiful now. So she needs cum to transform living things into flesh monsters. Okay. I can feel a sneeze coming. Oh no. The many enzymes secreted by her body and the various appendages she uses are discussed in detail in my biological observations, filed separately. Here, I will say this. By witnessing Saya perform her operations on several rats, I have gained much confidence in my theory that her body is designed specifically to manipulate the biology of other organisms. Ryoko looks grandly at the still unsorted mountain of research notes. When she finally manages to separate those papers, she will probably find the many other files mentioned in the diary. OGAI'S biological observations, at the very least. She wants to look through those before facing the thing called Saya. Under no circumstances does she want to go into the battle unprepared. She looks at her watch and sees that it's already 7 in the morning. Assuming Tono Koji made no stops, he should be arriving in Tokyo about now. Now that it's too late, she wishes she'd stopped that stubborn fool from leaving. Even if she'd had to shoot him in the leg to do it. Koji pulls up 2 blocks away from the Sakisaka house and stares at the silent building. In the bright light of morning, the house seems shrouded in a dark miasma, like a black hole torn out. Like a black hole torn out of the landscape. Is it just a figment of Koji's imagination? Every window is closed, offering no glimpse of the inside. Koji has no way of knowing whether Fuminori is home. A pedestrian walks his dog down the street, glancing back at Koji through the windshield after he passes by. Koji isn't surprised by the attention. He hasn't bathed or changed clothes since spending the night buried in mud, so he must look like a vagrant even inside his car. When he looks into the rearview mirror, he sees a haggard visage of a man with one foot in the grave staring back at him. It's hard to believe that the tired, unshaven face is really his. If he stays here for too long, someone might report him to the police. He'd better pull himself together and get moving. He drives slowly up to the front of Fuminori's house, quickly checks to make sure no one is around, and gets out of the car. Anyone who might be in the house probably heard the sounds of the engine, but there's no point in worrying about that now. Koji walks swiftly through the gate and yard of the front door. He puts his hand on the doorknob, foregoing the bell. The time for such pleasantries has passed. The door is unlocked, and the knob turns easily in his hand. He puts his ear to the door and listens, for any sign of life. He's acting like a thief. He realizes with some shame, but this is the last of his worries now. No sound from within. After checking the street again to make sure no one is looking, he quickly opens the door and disappears inside. An indescribable stink immediately assaults his nostrils. He's already prepared for anything, however, so rather than discourage him, the stench only sharpens his caution to raise his edge. He has crossed his threshold many times in the past, and his memories of days spent here are still bright. So why? Why does he feel the same ominous, blood-chilling aura that permeated OGAI'S home and cabin? Anger and sorrow seize Koji's heart, as though a dear friend's grave has been defiled. Koji doesn't remove his shoes before entering. He knows why he's here, and is not to be polite. Every storm shutter is closed, filling the house with gloom, and he can see nothing but pitch-black darkness through the open doors in the hallway. He should have brought his flashlight from the car, he thinks ruefully, then remembers that he dropped the light when Fuminori attacked him. It's still lying in the backyard of the cabin in Tochigi. The house might be empty, then again, it might be not. Every particle of the air seems charged with silent menace. Is his enemy lurking somewhere in the darkness? It's not hard to imagine Fuminori waiting for a chance to take him by surprise and finish what the well fell to. Koji walks down the first floor hallway, then climbs the stairs and checks the second floor too. He moves slowly and carefully, keeping his senses sharp, but feels nothing watching him from the shadows. After completing his rounds safely, he is convinced that the house is empty. He suddenly realizes that his right hand is touching the cold steel of the gun in his pocket. Did he intend to draw the weapon upon encountering Fuminori? Now that Koji thinks about it, his own actions seem mysterious to him. What is he planning to do when he meets Fuminori? Will he lay into him with curses and epithets? Will he force him to turn himself in? Or will he... Koji shakes his head. This isn't the time for such hopeless questions. If he keeps thinking, he'll stop moving. If he stops moving, fear will paralyze him forever. His only choice is to keep marching on. He has to close the distance to his prey. In any case, Fuminori isn't home. What form their reunion takes will probably be decided at the moment of their meeting. All Koji has to do is not hesitate when the time comes. Still, why does the whole house smell like stagnant water? It's been 3 months since Fuminori distanced himself from his friends. So what kind of life has he been leading all this time? Koji enters the living room and feels along the wall for the light switch. The moment he flips it on, the answer to his question is revealed. What? How far has Fuminori gone? Koji realizes that this is the first time he has encountered Fuminori's insanity in visible form. From the dust piled in the corners of the room, it is clear that the paint was not applied recently. How many nights has Fuminori spent surrounded by this maddening array of color? Why, if such obvious signs were available, why didn't Koji realize that something was wrong before it got to his head? Was he deaf to the dying screams of Fuminori's sanity? Was their friendship really so worthless? As he stands petrified in the unfamiliar living room, Koji directs his anger entirely at himself. If he could, he would like nothing more than to apologize to Fuminori for failing to help him through the suffering. Koji feels that he might have been able to save his friend. Perhaps he is arrogant to think so, but if so, it is arrogance born of kindness. Oh, you might want to look in the fridge. Get a nice snack. Koji passes through the living room and opens the sliding door that leads to the kitchen. When he enters, he finds that the most disturbing of the house's many stenches is strongest here. I wonder why. Blood. The room is redolent with the smell of countless layers of blood grown stale over time. He peers into the well-used sink. Around the rim, he sees faint brownish-red blotches of water alone. Brownish-red blotches that water alone couldn't rinse off. Even more obvious are the stains on the dish rag. Such stains are proof that the rag has been used and reused countless times. But what could it have been used on to make it that sickening burgundy color? Koji stares at the refrigerator next to the counter as though it were a monster waiting to swallow him whole. Oh, is he gonna see his girlfriend staring back at him? He stands motionless until he is able to work up the courage to simply touch it. Then he steels himself, grabs the thick handle, and opens the door. Here we go! First he'll check the freezer, then the refrigerator. The freezer is packed with frozen meat of varying shapes and sizes. As each piece is wrapped tightly and frosted over plastic, he can't tell what kind of meat it is. The meat in the refrigerator, however, has already been thawed for consumption. Yup. Doesn't that look a little familiar? For a while, he can only stare in disbelief at the 5 fingers beckoning to him from the back of the compartment. They are the long, slender fingers of a woman, their bluish tinge giving them the appearance of waxwork. Koji is unable to remember what Omi's hands looked like, even though he had kissed her fingers countless times. When he finished crying after his conversation with Fuminori, Koji promised himself that he would not cry again, and in fact, he does not. He regrets his decision, however. He indulged himself too early. He should have saved his soothing tears for this moment, and for now, he knows that truly nothing is sacred. At last, his doubts about Fuminori have been utterly obliterated. Koji pulls OGAI'S revolver out of his pocket and wraps his hands around its grip like he would a charm. Its definitive presence, its promise of merciful annihilation, is the only thing keeping his sanity intact. He will surely use it to kill Sakisaka Fuminori. Not for revenge, not for justice, but to make this world once more a place governed by reason. For that promise alone, he must eliminate the anomaly. He breathes deep, exhales, then lifts his hand before his face and stares at his spread fingers. Alright, he's not shaking. He's prepared to face his new objective. Koji sticks the revolver back into his pocket and pulls out his phone. Oh, baby. Save here? Well, no, that's the quick save menu. Open save, load me. Can. How does one save again? No, that's. Oh, that's the quick save menu, okay. I gotcha. Save that over here. I don't think you want to call Fuminori right now. How about we call... I mean, if you really want to kill him, giving him a heads up is kind of a bad idea. So how about we call Ryoko first? The ringing of her cell phone interrupts Ryoko's labors. When she sees that the caller is Tono Koji, she unwittingly breathes a sigh of relief. This is Tambo, what is it? I've searched Fuminori's house. Even over the phone, Ryoko can hear the change in Koji's tone. This is dull. The dull, flat voice of someone who has had all the energy beaten out of him. Fuminori has murdered people. He's killed too many people to count, and he's eating them. Too many people to count, I mean...
2?
But I mean, if they're all chopped up like that, it's kinda hard to tell. His first steps in Ryoko's world have already brought him face to face with something particularly gruesome. In consideration of his probable state of mind, she decides to say nothing. Omi is dead, Koji continues. Tsukuba too, probably. Doctor, I was wrong. The fact that you're still alive to make this call means you haven't made a fatal mistake yet, Ryoko says, praising Koji in her own way. Whether he is comforted or not is up to him. Anyway, don't screw up this time. Do nothing until I return. What we're dealing with here isn't going down easy. With her understanding of Saya deepening by the hour, Ryoko was able to make this declaration with new confidence. Fuminori already knows I'm alive. I didn't tell him who rescued me, but he's definitely on guard. I see. Koji's actions were rash, but there's no point regretting them now. The more proactive approach would be to use the pressure that he's placed on Fuminori. Ryoko's involvement is still a secret. That makes her a wild card. Depending how she plays it, this advantage could be decisive. Have you found anything? Not enough yet, Ryoko answers, glancing sidelong at the loose-leaf pages still scattered across the table. Let's see, I'll wrap this up by evening and return to Tokyo around midnight. You stay out of trouble until then, got it? Yes, sir. The lack of emotion in Koji's voice is actually reassuring to Ryoko. He's a machine now, able to do whatever it takes to accomplish a single goal, the extermination of Sakisaka Fuminori. He's even willing to accept help from Ryoko, whose principles hardly mesh with his. Praiseworthy change indeed. After Ryoko hangs up, she gloomily counts the stacks of loose leaf that still need to be restored. There's no time left, she'll only be able to get the general picture. If she has to go into battle with only fragmented knowledge, then there's one thing that she absolutely must decipher. OGAI'S biological reports, which should contain information on the strengths and weaknesses of the organism called Saya. All she can do now is pray for luck as she dives back into the mountains of paper.
Ultimate Despair Live.